What if I told you that somebody famous from the 80s had starred in 7 major motion pictures, had a massive TV presence, and is still considered the king of the arena that he competes in, got his own cartoon in 1985, and you forgot about it? Welcome, fellow 80s gearheads and Bigfoot fans of all ages. This is Toy Warp Vintage Reviews, and today I want to talk about the unfortunate fate of the 1985 Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines cartoon and its tie-in toy line, Playschool's SST or Supersized Truck line. Every Which Way But Loose, Cannonball Run 2, 2 Police Academy movies, and of course,
Roadhouse.
Even as late as 2018, starring in Ready Player One, Bigfoot's presence, whether it be in movies, TV, or live shows, puts butts in seats. So, having his own cartoon to push merch was a logical step in the 80s, right? Only it wasn't your traditionally structured animated show. Instead of following the 22-minute episodical formula of the 1980s cartoons, Bigfoot was only an hour long. That's it. And it was divided up into 6 to 8 minute segments and aired in the same half-hour block as Gemma and the Holograms and Robotics. To make matters worse, it was part of the Super Saturday/Super Sunday cartoon block, distributed by Castor Television, and it didn't put it out to the same amount of TV stations that other cartoons were, so the audience was extremely limited. I mean, let's put it this way, you remember cartoons like G.I. Joe and He-Man because with more episodes came more TV time. Since Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines' entire one season that exists is only an hour long, it is the equivalent of about 3 episodes of a normal cartoon. Imagine if the Transformers had only aired for 3 episodes, ever. Chances are, with it only being 3 episodes long, you'd probably remember the GoBots due to just more exposure. This was the fate of the Bigfoot cartoon. Produced by Sunbow and animated by Toei, the entirety of the story was penned by G.I. Joe and Transformers alumni Flint Dille. The musical score was a mix of the opening theme song to the cartoon and leftover G.I. Joe scores. All the sound effects were lifted straight from G.I. Joe and Transformers. And the voice cast were familiar voice actors from Sunbow, including Neil Ross, Susan Blue, Chris Latta, and Peter Cullen. With famous, or now infamous, voice director Wally Burr, who Dan Gilvezan, original voice for Bumblebee, wrote a book on how Wally Burr was a slave-driving perfectionist. With all the people and the Bigfoot name involved, you'd think that this had the makings of a terrific cartoon. Instead, what we got was more like a hungover weekend project from Sunbow. A weekend, it seems. Everyone involved actually wished they were doing anything else. Flint Dille's story really has some ups and downs in quality here. Because of the 6 to 8 minute runtime of each episode, nearly the entire runtime is non-stop action, as cartoon shows usually have to end on a cliffhanger. While this certainly packs the hour-long tune with action, a lot of it just isn't thought out very well, and it leaves next to zero time for any kind of character development. An hour just isn't enough time to flesh out 6 good guys and 3 bad guys. That same time crunch hinders the very beginning of the show because the action has to ensue right away. The viewer already feels like they're missing out on some of the story. Hey, this woman is running away from bad guys for no explained reason. The bad guys are typically a very little threat because they're so easily dispatched, and that's a running theme throughout this cartoon, so just get used to it now. The overall story is that a random woman seemingly steals a map from a billionaire. the billionaire's henchmen chase her into the arena. Bigfoot and the team of other drivers are doing a live show. During the chaos, she hides the map under Bigfoot's seat. Somehow, seen by magic apparently, the bad guys get wind of this, and the next day, they basically start to chase Bigfoot and the team across the country as they connect back with the woman, and reveals that the map is a map to the Fountain of Youth located in Florida. So, the hero and pretty much main character is named, checks notes, Yank Justice. Reasoning that he's the main character is because he is the driver of Bigfoot. In a smart choice, neither Bigfoot nor any of the other trucks are sentient. While it would have been really cool to have talking trucks via like a supercomputer or something, it was probably not made that way, so when little kids went to the monster truck shows, they weren't expecting Bigfoot or the other trucks to talk to them. Next is Professor D, who the announcer in the opening scenes says that he actually was a professor until he got caught up into the world of truck pulling. And that's about the end of his character development, period. Having a professor on the team could have led to some really interesting problem solvings, but he's just basically there to pilot Orange Blossom. Oh, along with his pet armadillo, Dilly, I can't make this up, who could also laugh for some reason. Next are a set of female twins whose names are, checks notes, Red and Redder.
The Red and Redder. And wait till you see these wild-eyed, red-headed twins.
Would you stop hamming it up?
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do at a monster truck show, is ham it up. I don't know if it's by accident or design, but the show has its which one is Rumble, which one is Frenzy moments, as it literally switches the two.
You and I have romantic roads to ride, Red.
Oh, I'm Redder.
And that's Red.
I'm Redder, and you're a grease monkey.
Rounding out the drivers is the pilot of Warlord, whose name is, checks notes, Close McCall. Oh boy. Making a late entrance to the show, other than to pilot Warlord, it seems his only purpose on the show is to try to flirt with Red. More on that in a bit, though. And finally, rounding out the good guys is Jennifer McGraw. Finally, a regular name. Who is the woman who, in the beginning, stole the map in the first place to keep it out of the bad guys' hands. She is unimpressed by Yank Justice.
Mr. Justice, if that is indeed your name, I'm not interested in small talk.
What are you interested in?
Not you or your machines.
And despite them saving her multiple times, she is flat out disrespectful to the driver crew for the entirety of the show. The big bad in the show is Adrian Ravenscroft, billionaire who's near the end of his life and wants the Fountain of Youth to, I guess, hang on to his money longer? Seriously, a reason is never really given as to why he's the bad guy. As far as I could tell, Jennifer stole the map so his corruption would end when he finally died? I guess? Anyways, the bad guys are rounded out by Ravenscroft limousine driver / personal bodyguard, who never even gets a name, and then Ernie Sly, probably the world's most bungling henchman. He is probably a worse bad guy than Starscream, and speaking of Starscream, maybe his voice sounds a little familiar?
You got the right guy, because I just happen to know a real good route there.
That's because his voice actor is none other than Chris Latta, though I think he's channeling more of his inner Cobra Commander here. Ravenscroft is voiced by Neil Ross, Close McCall by voice director himself, Wally Burr, Red, Redder, and Jennifer, all by Susan Blue, Professor D by Arthur Burghardt, the limo chauffeur is Peter Cullen, and Yank Justice, I can't get enough of that name, by Lance LeGault, who Yank Justice was even modeled after. While most other cartoons and TV shows are storyboarded, it feels like Dilly wrote the action by the seat of his pants and then just sent the script to Toei, with little or no illustrations in tow. Throughout the cartoon, there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't make sense, like this spike that transforms into notes, a spike, these axes that are whipped above their head and sounds like chains, but they're still axes. The arena with no security to keep pedestrians from being ran over by monster trucks performing. Dispatching bad guys with makeup. Or here's probably the best one, monster trucks defeating tanks. While it may have been a weekend project for Sunbow to write and voice act, it was one late night cram session at Toei apparently. The purpose for this cartoon's existence was to sell the SST line from the new Hasbro-owned Play School. However, the poor detail put onto the screen in the trucks and the fact that supersized trucks is never even mentioned will make any fans question whether or not the two were related. Granted, the cartoon has never been restored and the picture quality, no matter the version, is absolute dog water. But very seldom are Bigfoot, Orange Blossom, or Black Gold ever made to look really good to sell product, or even closely look like real trucks. While there are times that you can even see the Chevy or Ford logos on them, their lines look like something a 10-year-old would draw. The worst offender, though, is Warlord, which never even closely resembles a Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. A huge miss by both studios, considering the immense popularity of the car in both live-action Knight Rider shows and animations like Turbo Teen. Everything was about the Trans Am in the early 80s. Warlord and its driver were a late addition to both toy shelves and the cartoon, and is animated and written into the story in the most bizarre way possible. After the team turns down his help in Oklahoma, traveling from Nevada, Warlord is eventually accepted into the team in Louisiana after Close McCall saying that he followed them all the way. Mind you, the team was traveling to Florida, following the map, meaning that Close McCall had followed them clear from Nevada at that point, all because he thought Red was cute. Not only did this sound like a weekend project, but judging by the sexual angst in the show, I think I know what Dilly would have rather been doing, because this is pretty much the horniest 80s cartoon I have ever seen.
And wait till you see these wild-eyed, red-headed twins.
Give me the map.
Obviously, I don't heard this last night.
Or with that girl.
First time he ever noticed a girl. Get off of me!
What do you want with this?
I am not obliged to tell you anything.
Great. Tell it to the cops. You'll have plenty of time. Grand Theft Auto goes for 3 to 10 years.
Didn't mean to disturb you, Yank. I thought you might be in trouble.
You're not disturbing anything.
So please stifle your pathetic attempts at flirtation.
Flirtation.
I knew it! She's got a crush on him! Look! We're gonna be cut to ribbons!
Now the Close McCall's here.
Sorry, we got enough troubles without taking a rookie along. Why not? He's kinda cute.
Excuse me, ma'am, but you busy later tonight? Say about 8 o'clock?
McCall? My hero! Oh, brother.
Come on, jump!
That was most exhilarating. Okay, Jerko, we're impressed, so why don't you stop talking about it? Keep talking, Close.
You and I have romantic roads to ride, Red.
Oh, I'm redder.
There's only one thing I want, and that's red.
I'm redder, and you're a grease monkey. We can put Bigfoot together again.
Say, Red, honey, since we're just crawling along here, why don't you ride with me and we'll have ourselves a few ho-hos?
thanks, Close. I thought you'd never ask. Pull on over. Oh, brother. Here.
Renner, your hero is here.
Oh, Close.
Renner, baby, it's with a warm heart that I deliver you from certain doom.
Well, where you going now?
Oh, I don't know. You got any ideas?
Hey, wait a minute. Let's just start driving.
Throughout the absolute hot mess chaos that Bigfoot the Muscle Machines is, it does manage to get some things right and even foreshadow the real Bigfoot's future. And it was probably by complete accident, but I'm still going to give it to the cartoon. In the show, Bigfoot is not invincible and is shown taking damage and even having to stop off for repairs. There's a scene where Bigfoot misses jumping a bridge and crashes into a river, only to float to the top and drive down the river in water deeper than the tires can reach the bottom. This is actually something Bigfoot can do, as the air pressure in the tires acts as buoyancy, and then the large treads on the tires acting like paddles in the water. Yeah, remember a couple of years ago when that Whistling Dixie guy made this big video about driving his truck off into the Gulf of Mexico? Yeah, Bigfoot already did it like 25 years before that. And I can hear the comment section already. If Bigfoot was pulled under for any reason, yes, he probably would sink. And he can't just jump into the water. He has to drive into... I get it. But it was really cool to see him driving down a river, just like he did in some of the Bigfoot 80s videos. And not to mention his top speed on the water, about 5 miles an hour. A couple of times, Bigfoot drives up the side of the bad guy monster trucks, which is actually factual as well, because it's a regular procedure for photo ops. And finally, in some foreshadowing, the first bad guy monster truck that Bigfoot goes up against is called Grave Roller, and what seems to be a highly modified hearse. Ironically, the monster truck Grave Digger, sporting a lot of the same motif, would eventually surpass Bigfoot in the monster truck arena. But weirdly, it didn't get its first win against Bigfoot for another 2 years after this cartoon. Oh, and Bigfoot also makes some really spectacular jumps in the show, and this is all factual as well, as not only were there big jumps, just a product of monster truck races, but in 1996, Bigfoot would set a world record for jumping a 747 without breaking a sweat. In a weird twist, however, Bigfoot was accompanied by 3 competition pulling trucks that, aside from pulling Bigfoot after he broke down one time, never get anything to pull in the entirety of the show and are reduced to just basic transportations for their drivers. Along with the joy of seeing what Bigfoot could actually do, some of the lines in the show were witty and quotable despite the bonkers premise of the show.
If it weren't for me.
To pat himself on the back that hard, the boy must be double-jointed.
I'll put it to you straight, miss whatever your 3 names were. I like Bigfoot, my team, and freedom, and that about covers it.
Get off my darn foot! Your darn foot isn't doing the job!
See, Warlord Rip. I did this power trip on her, slapped on some carb booster, and she turns asphalt to gravel.
I don't take your meaning.
He says his car is fast.
That boy has some peculiar ideas about language.
With a premise and action this bizarre, the ending doesn't disappoint in equaling the rest of the cartoon's weirdness. Ravenscroft actually beats the team to the Fountain of Youth, drinking from it, and go, you know what, I'm not even going to spoil it for you. Let's just say that in the end, it's not Close McCall that's the psychopath, it's Yank Justice. Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines was a low-effort cash grab by Hasbro to pimp the SST toy line that Hasbro inherited when it acquired Milton Bradley and its subsidiary Play School. While the 80s were peak automotive cartoons, it was also the beginning of the end for transportation-related toys, as action figures and their cartoon counterparts would dominate from the late 80s, with Thundercats, He-Man, G.I. Joe, and the like. The ensuing Turtle Mania of the late 80s and well into the 90s was the assurance that little to no car or truck-based animated shows would be shown on American TVs. Hasbro didn't try with the show very hard because they already had toy lines reaching into that same age demographic. Toy lines that were already better performers than transportation-related toys, no matter the boom of the monster truck popularity. Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines would be dropped from the Super Saturday cartoon block in late 1986 as the contracts to license all 4 of the trucks expired in 1987. Today, Hasbro still owns the rights to the cartoon, but to revive it in any way, like to put on a streaming service or even offer DVDs, would invite a whole list of legal hurdles, as they would have to acquire the licensing again for all 4 real trucks that were in the cartoon. As of 2024, the only place you can get a DVD is a made-on-demand seller on eBay, with a very poorly aged version of the show that is not restored. That same version is the version that is viewable on a few different channels here on YouTube, including Toy Warp, where I will be uploading it along with the original commercials for the trucks sprinkled in for good nostalgic measure. Subscribe for that. Despite what amounts to a failed pilot for the show, Bigfoot and its owner Bob Chandler's popularity would do nothing but soar over the years to come, with Bigfoot even being featured in a completely separate cartoon in 1990 called Video Power. A half-hour show featured around video game tips and the Power Team cartoon squished in the runtime. In the cartoon, Bigfoot is modeled after Bigfoot 8 instead of Bigfoot 1, and is a sentient talking truck this time around. What's ironic is that the show shares its screen time with the live-action portions, much like the original cartoon did with Gem and Robotics. Also, instead of selling toys, Bigfoot was included to help sell the Bigfoot NES game released the same year. It could be a video all of its own, maybe another time. Being a low-effort show, Bigfoot was not a masterpiece, or most would argue, not even a good cartoon. If you view it now as an adult, I would say that you have to view it alongside of your inner child to see why this worked for you in the 80s. While the names have changed, monster trucks as a whole still captivate all little kids, and from that perspective, the show is still as timeless today as it was then. Or maybe that's just the fountain of youth talking. Make sure to check out the reviews on the entirety of the Playskool SST toy line here on Toy Warp, plus the Bigfoot movie. I mean, as long as YouTube lets me keep it up. Do you remember the Bigfoot cartoon? Who was your favorite character? Tell me in the comments section down below. I love hearing from you guys. Thank you for watching.